Hey, what's going on, everyone? You already know who it is. It's your boy Mikey Savage 21, and today I'm going to be giving you a movie review for the film Morgan. And the way I'm going to structure this is I'm going to do up front, do a non-spoilers review, and then at some point I'll put up a graphic or a logo and let you guys know when I'm about to go into spoilers. I apologize for this not being in video format. I'm currently still sick, which is why my voice sounds the way it does. But I wanted to get my thoughts and opinions up about this film because I actually just saw it last night. So, getting right into it, I liked it. I really did. I enjoyed it. When going in, I had heard that it was kind of like Species and Spliced mixed together, one of those films that borrows heavily from each one, and I could see elements of both films in this as well, but Morgan stands on its own. Now jumping into it, it's directed by Luke Scott, the son of Ridley Scott. Now of course, if you guys don't know who Ridley Scott is, he's the man who brought us the Alien franchise, and he's also the one who brought us the Prometheus franchise, along with another amazing set of films as well. You definitely gotta go check his repertoire out for what he's done as a director and as a producer. So everyone's gonna ask, is he able to capture what his dad does in this realm of horror mixed in with, and I gotta say, he actually did a phenomenal job. I mean, I really didn't have any problems with his directing style. I thought it was great. I thought he got a great performance out of each of the characters that we had in here, especially Anya Taylor, who's playing the main protagonist in this film, Morgan. I thought he did a fantastic job directing her, and I thought she was just an overall plus to this film, along with Kate Mara as well, and Toby Jones as well. I definitely enjoyed seeing them on screen, along with all the other cast members they had on here. Well, I don't really think there was anyone in here who just kind of phoned it in or gave a bad performance here. Again, I love the film. I thought it was really good. I thought it was really great. It had mixes of horror, had a little bit of drama in there as well, a little bit of science fiction. It also had some action in there as well, which anytime you have a film that adds action to it, sir, look at the Terminator 2 or look at Aliens. When you add action into a film that already is kind of a tight-knit film that already has horror to it, you just kind of see exactly what is going on here. And when you have a film like that adds action to it, it just kind of makes the film overall better and more watchable for normal moviegoers. Now, the screening that I was in, there wasn't too many people there, which, again, in certain films, I actually like for there not to be a crowd. And this is one of the ones where I didn't want a crowd because I want to make sure I get every single piece of dialogue in. Now, I more so like that on comedy films, but with this, if you miss out on dialogue or certain key scenes, then you might be a little confused as to what happens at the end and what leads into things. But getting back to Luke Scott, I loved his visual directing style here. He did a very good job of making us feel for this character, and he did a very good job visual-wise. Every single shot that he had was great. This is kind of like what I talked about with Fede Alvarez, where if he shoots or shows something in the camera, then it's going to be important and it's going to be referenced back later on throughout the film. So he has a kind of similar style like that, where none of his shots were wasted. And again, it's just the scope of things just look absolutely beautiful. Now, getting into the actual plot, in case you guys haven't seen the trailer, what this is a secret group of government people, government scientists, I should say, have created this life form named Morgan. And on her 5th birthday, she actually had a bit of a accident, and she ended up stabbing one of her trainers or handlers, however you want to say it, in the eye. And so they bring in Kate Mara's character, who is like one of these top-ranking officials, and she is sent here essentially to determine whether or not she's competent or whether or not they should shut down this entire program. And again, I gotta commend Anya Taylor for what she did here. She did a fantastic job of acting. I bought everything that she was saying. I bought that she was this 5-year-old girl who had just been brought to life and was very young and naive, was experiencing these different emotions and didn't know necessarily how to control them. But I liked also the innocence that she also portrayed on the film as well, how she made the character likable and relatable, and when you saw her do certain things, you just really felt for it, especially when you get to certain parts in the film, which again I'll get to later on in the spoiler side. Now, talking about some of the other characters in here as well, I got to give it up for Kate Mara. I know she has not had an easy time getting that Fantastic Four stench off of her, especially when you have something like this. Now, of course, she's up for another Fantastic Four movie, but that's a different video for another day. But I gotta say, she was also a great attribution to this film as well. When I went into this, I thought, okay, she's just probably gonna be one of these characters. She's gonna be one note, come in and do her, normal boss lady CIA thing, like, I have no emotions, I have no feelings. And she does do that to a degree, but there is a certain reason why she does that, and it explains it in the film. And once it gets to the end, you kind of understand, oh, that's right, and it all comes full circle. Now again, Toby Jones, I loved his performance here, what he was able to bring into this as well. I felt the emotion behind him. You could tell he actually really cared about Morgan, that this just wasn't some kind of project that he had spent his life's work on. He actually cared about Morgan and actually had feelings for Morgan, which I actually like. And of course, I got to give a big shout out to Rose Leslie. I loved what she was doing in here as well. Again, all the characters in here were not throwaway one and done characters, and even when I tried to go in ahead of time and predict things like, oh, this guy's going to be the love interest, or this guy's going to be killed off first, it essentially didn't work out that way. And I like that, how it didn't follow that same stereotypical horror trope when it comes to certain films. So again, acting was subpar. I had no problems with the acting whatsoever. Now, guys, I'm actually about to get into some spoilers right here. But I will go ahead and give you my score right off the bat, in case you don't want to stick around for the spoilers. I'm going to simply give this film a 4. I'm going to give this a 3.5 out of 5. I'm going to give this a 3.5 out of 5. It was a great film. There were a few negatives here and there. Make sure you stick around for the negatives in the spoilers review if you really want to know the negatives. But they're like little minor nitpick negatives. Again, it was a great film and I highly enjoyed it. And once I get into the spoiler side, I actually might change my mind and make my score go up. But alright guys, you've been issued a spoiler warning. I'm about to jump into some spoilers. Now, I had mentioned before about how Anya Taylor was able to essentially bring out the character's inner feelings here. You could tell that she was a naive child, even for her age being as advanced as she was. You could really tell that Anya Taylor committed to this role. And so when it gets to the ending where she has escaped from the compound and she essentially finds out what she was essentially created for, you actually can tell, oh, well, she literally figured it out, what she was bred and made for. And this also comes full circle with Kate Mara's character as well. Now, I had mentioned that I thought she was going to be one of those one-note characters where she was one emotion the entire time. And she actually was for the entire time, but there's a reason behind that. And again, we're in spoilers, so if you don't want to get a major plot point spoiler here, then you should have already tuned out by now. Kate Mara's character essentially is the same as Morgan. She was also created in a laboratory and was one of the original breakthroughs that they made, except she was a full-grown adult at this point. But she had the same kind of powers and super strength that she did, and I kind of started to figure it out after a while when she was able to fight on par with Morgan, because again, during this film, there are people who try to engage with Morgan and she bashes their skulls in with like one hit. She has that power. Yet she's able to punch Kate Mara in the face and possibly bruise and damage and do some internal damage as well, even getting to a point where she impaled her with a log. She was still able to get up and fight. So I kind of figured, okay, something's up with this girl. She must be just like Morgan. So I like that whole little twist coming in. And then again, it comes full circle. with the characters and the way that they're picked off one by one. I like how they're not just one and done characters and you just essentially kill them just to kill them. I like that about the film. The film had a lot to offer. Again, it had lots of action. It did have sequences of horror in there, and I definitely deserved its rated R rating. Did have a couple of F-bombs in there, but not too many. I know when you go to the hard PG-13 level, you can maybe do about 2, and then after that it gets rated R. But I can see why this film was rated R. But yeah, I just enjoyed this film. I highly recommend you check out this film. Now, getting to some minor negatives, the only negatives I have would possibly, it's just going to be 2, is the only really downside to this is, again, it just didn't live up to the hype, that everyone was getting. Again, it was a great film overall, and in general, it was a great film, a great watch. I definitely recommend you go check it out. But it just kind of didn't live up to the hype, and at certain points, it did feel like, okay, can we hurry up and get to the next scene? It's starting to drag a little bit, which in most films, you're going to have a little drag here and there, but you don't want it to become so evident that you get bored and lost. And there were times where I was literally bored and lost because the dialogue really wasn't that important in a particular scene. But again, what another praise I have to give it is it used its runtime to the maximum, and it didn't get into too long. Usually when you get into the 2-hour mark and the film is still going on, you're like, okay, it's time for let's hurry up and end this. I already know where this is going. But this did a good job of keeping me on my toes, but felt like it just didn't live up to the hype. And the only other thing that I would have to say that was kind of a bit of a negative was I felt like the ending wasn't necessarily that satisfying. I felt like we went on this big journey to get to the compound, and then we meet Morgan, and then we get to see what Morgan's about, and then we get to see Morgan go through this transformation, and then she just ends up dying at the end. Kate Mara ends up just like choking her out in water and drowning her, and boom, that's it. And then it's like, oh, well, the original is always better than new. And I'm just like, okay, I see where you were going with that ending, but maybe you could have taken it a different route to where she could have woken up at the end, or maybe it was a tie and you just essentially had to break the characters up so that way you could maybe lead into a next film, or the way you give the viewer the sense of, okay, I see now that I have to pick sides here, because I felt like we didn't spend enough time with Kate Mara's character to really like her character. I mean, her character was likable, and again, she was one note, but there was a reason why she was so one note. But I felt like the audience couldn't really get behind Kate Mara's character, especially when you get to the scene where they're about to give Morgan the lethal injection and tears are going everywhere. Everyone's crying. It's really emotional room, but Kate Mara is just like, whatever. So then I'm just kind of like, well, how can we get behind Kate Mara when she's not showing any emotion at all? And again, I know that's what Luke Scott was going for, and that's what Kate Mara's character was about, because again, she was just like Morgan essentially, except she was a lot more advanced and was in the original clone that they had made, and they just kind of wanted to test and see if new is always better than old. But again, getting to my score again, I'm giving it anywhere between a 3.5 to a 4. It's kind of a little bit hard to put a number on this, but yeah, I enjoyed it, and I highly recommend you go check it out. I think it was just those two things where it didn't live up to the hype, not as much as most films do, and I think one of the problems that it kind of fell into was that it essentially just didn't live up to the hype, just to say it like that. And again, we couldn't really get behind Kate Mara's character when she was fighting Morgan. We were more so rooting for Morgan to get away so she could go see this lake and see if it was like heaven, even though she had just got through murdering all these people in this compound. You still felt for her character more so than you did Kate Mara's character. But guys, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and end this movie review. It's a little longer movie review than what I usually do, but I wanted to compact both the non-spoilers and the spoilers review in here, especially since this is just audio only and it's a little bit easier to edit. But what did you guys think of Morgan? Did you go see it this Labor Day weekend? If you did, what did you think of it? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. I love to engage and comment. I love to engage with you all and see what you thought of the film. Do you think it lived up to the hype? And if you did, please let me know in the comment section below. Also, let me know your rating scores either in a response video or either down in the comment section below, because I want to see what you guys thought of this film. Did you get the same emotional feeling that I did walking out of the film? Let me know. Also, if you like this review, please make sure you smash that like button. It helps out the channel immensely. Also, make sure you stay subscribed to my channel because I have movie reviews, podcast style videos, video game playthroughs, and other videos coming out as well. Thank you again so much for checking out this video. I'll make sure I have a link in the description below to follow me on all of my social media sites, as well as all of the playlists I have here. Thank you so much for checking out the video. And as I always say, I'm testified to the music, aka Mikey Savage 21, saying peace out.